Hey everyone, it's Danielle and this is my daughter Olivia, and today I'm showing you how we turn plain cardboard and foam into a full-blown Transformer costume for my daughter. This is the ultimate DIY Halloween build. No fancy tools, no expensive materials, just creativity, patience, and a little duct tape magic. Let's roll out.
So if you love this video, please give us a follow and a thumbs up, and I can show you more DIYs. Let's clear off this table. Now we have a clean working space. And now we're going to lay out all of the materials you're going to need for this project.
Yeah. Here are all the supplies that I used. You don't have to use the foam. You can just use cardboard, and you can use paint instead of the vinyl to keep the cost even lower. In the crouch position, measure your child from their head to their heels. Leave some extra room in the front and the back. This will allow some room for them to grow and also for the wheels to turn in. For the shoulder straps, measure your child from shoulder to shoulder. Our measurement was 12 inches. The first step is to draw your car's profile. You can use my template as an example or create your own. I drew mine freehand and then I had my daughter trace it out. Label each piece, part 1, part 2, part 3. This is so you don't forget which is which, and trust me on this. I used a box cutter and a ruler to get clean edges. The trick is to lightly score your lines first. That helps the cardboard fold neatly without cracking. We then cut out matching pieces for both sides to keep everything symmetrical. This part is totally optional, but to give the car a more 3D effect, we traced the cardboard templates over the foam with a marker and then cut them out using a utility knife.
So today is a beautiful fall day, plus I was getting foam everywhere in my house, so I decided to hopefully finish up this project outside.
I used spray adhesive to attach the cardboard to the foam, and then I smoothed and shaped each piece with scissors and a medium grit sanding block. We covered everything in yellow vinyl wrap with black accents, but you could also use yellow duct tape or yellow paint. I wished I would have used yellow paint and only used the vinyl for the stripes. This would have kept the cost down, and I think it would have been a lot quicker. Now we're connecting both sides of part 1. These are your front door panels. I cut a 19-inch rectangular frame out of cardboard and attached that to the front using duct tape and hot glue. This is providing structure and holding the two pieces together. I then folded another piece of cardboard in half to make the front end of the car. I removed the excess cardboard using the frame as a guide and then attached a triangle piece on top of that to fill the hole. I added another piece of cardboard to the top, and then I cut out the cardboard to make room for the hood of the car. I left about 2 inches of cardboard on either side.
Got the side panels on. We have the hood. I lined this in black.
When adding the back panels, you want to first line them up with the front panels slightly wider. Once you have that width measurement, you can then cut another piece of cardboard and add it to the top of the panels with duct tape. Since I was working by myself, I found it easiest to add duct tape to the bottom side of the panel and then add the duct tape to the top after. For the back end, I cut 2 more pieces of cardboard and cut them to 21 inches each. I found it helpful to look at printouts of similar Camaro. I added the back piece using duct tape again and then scored another piece with my utility knife so that I could give it a more rounded shape. And then I decided to add a fin with just a single piece of cardboard, and then I cut down another piece of 21-inch cardboard and scored it to make a more rounded shape and placed it in the empty space using duct tape. So here's what it looks like. I marked out where the tail lights would be, the exhaust, the logo, and the license plate. Now that we have that back panel secured and together, we have to cut out a spot for the roof. And then you have to cut off that hood all the way up so that you can attach the roof to the hood. To connect the part 3 window panels, cut a piece of cardboard slightly wider than the width of the cutout you just made. Attach the part 3 window panels to this roof piece. Then add a front window, placing it slightly slanted, and then add a back window and attach the hood to the front window using more duct tape. Unfortunately, my camera died while filming this part, but here it is all finished. And for the straps, I initially used some fluffy yarn and I attached them with duct tape so that they could be removed and moved based on my child's comfort. Because I used really flimsy cardboard, I ended up remaking the hood out of a different piece of cardboard that was stronger. That's why it looks a little different in the end, but it's the same process and the same measurements. To test out the mechanics, I duct taped the hood to the back end of the car. Because this may need to be moved a few inches up or down depending on your child's height, I recommend using duct tape because it can easily be removed. I then decided to change the hood into a pointed hood, and then I added another piece of cardboard to the hood to give it that muscle car effect. Making the wheels, this was actually my favorite part. It was really easy. I found a 9-inch bowl that was about the same size as the wheel well of the car, and I traced circles. We need 8 9-inch circles total, and then I have those cutouts that I had put aside, and we'll need to make 26.5-inch strips to fit around each circle. That's going to give it that 3D effect. I used duct tape to make longer lengths because I didn't have cardboard long enough. Now that we have all of our cutouts, we're going to use our hot glue gun to glue on those 26.5-inch strips to both of the rear wheel wells. The back wheels won't move, so these pieces will be glued directly onto the car. Then we're gluing the other strips around the diameter of 4 of the circles. For the other 4 circles, I created a random design that looked like a hubcap. I just traced another smaller bowl over that to create dimension. And then I used my utility knife to cut out each of the triangles so that it looks something like this. And then I lined those with silver vinyl. For the other piece, I added black vinyl just to make it look 3-dimensional. And then I decided to cut the inner pieces so that after I glue them on to the end piece, I can glue them down and make them look even more 3-dimensional. So I'm gluing the top piece onto the bottom piece, and then I'm going to be gluing the insides down and then adding a round piece of vinyl. We are almost there, I promise. So I'm adding some yellow vinyl to the hood and around the windows. And then I'm going to add black accents, of course, the stripes, and then we're going to connect everything together. To connect the wheels, I made about 3-inch strips using duct tape that I doubled up. I hot glued them to the front wheel wells from the inside so they can fold in and out. I ended up using 3 3-inch strips for each front wheel. For the back wheels, since they don't have to move, I hot glued those 2 arched wheel wells that we made into the hole, and then I covered the seams with black duct tape. Again, since the back wheels don't have to move, I just hot glued the wheels directly onto that arch. To connect the part 1 and part 2 together, I used a 3-inch piece of some scrap fabric that I had, and if you don't have fabric, you could use doubled up duct tape again. I added the hood back onto the car and attached it to the back of part 2 using lots of hot glue and duct tape. This is going to have a lot of weight on it, so you want to make sure this is really secure. I also glued the back part of the hood down on the inside. At this point, I had my daughter try on the costume just to make sure everything moved the way it was supposed to. My daughter did find the straps to be uncomfortable, so I ended up finding a backpack that was torn and left in my basement. I took off the backpack straps and attached those with hot glue and more duct tape, and then I hid all the seams with some more vinyl on the inside of the hood. And this is the part that you can get really creative, and I had so much fun with this. I printed off a lot of Transformer logos and the Camaro logo and added those. I made this license plate. I just printed off these images onto some glossy photo paper that I then cut out and glued on with hot glue. And I ended up using reflective tape for the headlights and the taillights, which is totally optional, but it does work well for nighttime trick-or-treating. And just like that, Bumblebee is ready for action. I hope this inspires you to make your own DIY costume. You don't need a 3D printer, just some imagination, a few supplies, and maybe a little caffeine. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please like and subscribe for more DIYs.